What's up? Nowstalgia Pod coming at you. Your weekly look at what's going on in pop culture. I am Patrick Sheehan with my co-host Dave Martinson. Dave, how does it feel to not be part of the 2%, dude?
Feels wonderful.
So that's
really
obviously a leftovers reference. But Dave, I mean, I know...
Don't get it.
I had a feeling you looked very confused at first.
I was like, that's Silicon Valley reference?
No, it's not.
Rich people? Yeah.
Well, Silicon Valley, I mean, what? They started with that kidnapping at the beginning of the season.
I thought it was, what's his name? The
Hoolie guy?
No, the asshole with the orange car.
Oh,
the investor guy. I thought maybe that's something he said.
No.
The
he was
venture
awesome.
capitalist or whatever.
Yeah, he was awesome in that in the first episode. So we're gonna be talking a lot of TV. We previewed for you guys peak TV, the peakest of TVs, perhaps. So we're gonna get to that, but we want to start with a lot of music that came out, but not albums. We want to talk about some individual songs, some music videos. So I guess why don't we start with Lady Gaga?
Yeah.
I mean, her and Kendrick Lamar and I'm forgetting who the other person was that had headlined
Radiohead.
Coachella. Was it Radiohead? No, I think that was last year. Oh, it was Radiohead.
Yeah, because
right.
they're set.
Yeah, they got all upset.
Technical issues.
Off. So Kendrick
funny.
Lamar and Lady Gaga.
Classic rock, you know. Just can't get it right anymore.
I mean, Radiohead is. I mean, they're not like a lot of fun to listen to, but they're good. So I mean,
definitely not a fan.
Lady Gaga though, very fun to listen to most of the time.
Yeah, usually.
Unless she's singing with like Tony Bennett or something like that.
Right.
Joanne kind of got mixed reviews.
Right.
And she released a new song called "The Cure."
Yep. Right after her, I think she performed it at the Coachella set and then dropped it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty generic, pretty mediocre. Like Joanne, even the stuff that was not that well received at least got like, you know, bonus points for songwriting ideas, you know.
Right.
But this is just so like, I feel like Poker Face era Lady Gaga could have made this song way better, but it just is. It's like kind of like Perfect Illusion, it's just pretty mediocre.
Right. I feel like she really took like a step back creatively towards what kind of what is her bread and butter in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, she almost pulls in like elements of pop that are very generic now, like I don't know, like
it just
what's it like a like light island sound, I guess, like what you'd say like in the background. I feel like,
but like even someone like Ariana Grande, she like really pushes stuff with her albums too because she has such a great vocal range, and Gaga can do this. She's such a great artist and a great songwriter that I don't know, like this is the new post album single you're gonna get buzz off of. That seems like a miscalculation.
It's really interesting actually because her Coachella set was very poorly received both weekends.
Really?
They thought the first weekend was actually stronger than the second weekend, which, I mean,
was it like lip syncing or
no? It was just that it seemed like she just wasn't really as into it, and the crowd wasn't able to get as into it. Which,
that sucks.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd be stoked to see her.
Right, and especially because
she has so many hits,
and she filled in for Beyonce. So I mean, think about that. Like you originally buy your ticket thinking I'm going to see Beyonce.
But she killed the Super Bowl too. I would have thought she would have been good.
So I mean, maybe it just wasn't her 2 weekends. I'm not sure, but
not a good look.
Yeah, this isn't a good direction for Gaga. Our man Kendrick though.
Our man.
Yeah, I mean, he is man of the pod at this point because he's just been killing.
Check out our damn review from last week.
Where can they find it, Dave?
Soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod. Just crossed 25,000 plays.
Whoop, whoop. YouTube.
Help us get 25,000 on YouTube.
Yeah, subscribe us. So he released Humble music video.
Yeah, awesome.
As a precursor to Damn.
Yep.
We reviewed Damn, and then we said probably the song that will be the next hit off it, DNA, comes out with a video.
I got.
Yeah, pretty quickly after we talk about it.
A few days, yeah.
And what do you think of the video? Got your man's Don Cheadle.
Yeah, cool to see Rhodey from Captain America back at it, or Iron Man first.
It's funny that you know him as Rhodey. Like I was thinking about
Crash. He's in a lot of stuff.
I was like, okay, Hotel Rwanda. Like he was also in Dirk Diggler from.
He doesn't have a lot of like leading roles in great movies.
He's a good,
but he has a lot of like he's in a great supporting or great ensemble cast in good movies, you know.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Don Cheadle makes an appearance in this.
Yeah, again, very highbrow.
Yeah.
Video from Kendrick, more highbrow than Humble for sure. Humble's just kind of like a mindfuck, just doing different cool things.
Yeah, visually creative.
Right. But this one, like with Kendrick in cuffs, and then Cheadle's doing lyrics through him, and like being like, you know, like possessed
Right.
And the second half of the video is very different again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool. You know, he's very artistic guy in his videos, which is nice to see because he didn't used to be this way.
Puts a lot of thought into him, for sure.
And they just announced today the Damn Tour, which is only 17 dates this summer with Travis Scott and Dram. So
yeah, and
that's pretty cool.
He's not even playing MSG; he's playing the Barclays Center.
Yeah.
Interesting, and for sure. Also, he's taking like a really weird route, especially along the East Coast. Usually, you see like a New York date, then a Boston date, and then maybe like one either up like Montreal, or then they'll head back down the coast. But he goes
Philly, New York.
Yeah, I think he goes New York. He goes Philly, New York, Washington, Boston. So he's doing a lot of like weird zigzagging. But yeah, it was an interesting music video. One part I'm not sure if I really get, and maybe this goes with like the Kung Fu Kenny stuff.
Yeah,
Kung Fu Kenny. Yeah, the Chinese subtitles. Like,
I don't think I'm supposed to know.
Are we not supposed to know? Is that just part we're not supposed to get? Kendrick just broing out with Chinese subtitles underneath? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, music videos, MTV isn't the breaker of music as it once was. That's obviously just YouTube now. But I think music videos are still really cool. Like you look at someone like The Weeknd, who has had his videos, many of his videos connect to each other over like 4 years now, which is really cool. Like, I wasn't even aware of this at first, but like I feel it coming with Daft Punk connects to the
I can't feel my face.
Starboy. Like they all of his major videos all connect, and there's like a through line of like the different characters and stuff. Really interesting. And Kendrick, I don't know if there's a connection per se, but he's obviously putting some thought into it, which is cool.
Yeah, I think he's
not just a typical rap video or anything.
Yeah, he's just a very artistic person, and I'm sure he has some meaning behind all these things. He also,
even if it's just weird, that's cool. It's make it worth watching. He's
just become like a folk character almost in a way, like a larger than life type figure, because
he calls his fans the Ken folk, which I think is cool.
But he
confirmed there's no second album on Twitter.
But if you look at like the tweets that people tweeted off that,
all of the
it's
high
people like
ones
with conspiracies like this actually confirms that there will be a second album.
What about the blue pill though?
Right, exactly. Like I was just like, this is ridiculous. There's a lot of new hip hop, Frank Ocean, Logic, Carti, and Uzi Vert. I did not listen to Logic and Uzi Vert, or Carti and Uzi Vert. So give me a little breakdown of them.
Well, yeah, it wasn't Uzi Vert. It just has 2 songs on Playboi Carti's debut self-titled tape that came out the same day as Damn. And unfortunately, very disappointing effort from Playboi Carti. He's had a lot of buzz. We mentioned him last year. We talked about the XXL freshman because he was kind of in the same class as Yachty and Kodak and Uzi.
Right.
But he didn't have a project yet, and he still hadn't had one until right now. He had this huge buzz, and he's in ASAP Mob already. He was on the Cozy tapes. He has Broke Boy, that video we talked about where he gets head in it, which is still ridiculous.
Just ridiculous.
Another cool song, Fetty. But yeah, this is a very disappointing effort, so not pleased. I would have seen him at ASAP Ferg, but he was sick and didn't show, which sucked.
He was sick.
It was the last day of tour, so maybe he just bailed.
He was probably just super hungover or something like that. With that one song you told me to listen to, Woke Up Like This.
With Uzi.
Very poor effort.
Yeah.
And you said that was one of the best songs.
I think that's the one I vibe to the most. Wow. I actually think it's pretty catchy.
I don't know. It's
disappointing.
Not good album. Absolutely. What about Logic? It's Black Spider-Man?
Yeah, so he released Everybody.
So is this about Donald Glover?
Yeah, probably.
Interesting.
Like he does play with nerd culture a lot, like nerdcore stuff. So this is the second song from his forthcoming album Everybody, which comes out May 5th, which we've mentioned before. This was really cool because he starts out in a really like rapid fire verse again, and then it gets really soulful again, and once again very lyrical, very poignant about the racial themes he's really been getting into as a biracial guy. So again, looking forward to that album. We'll talk about it when it comes, but cool. He has that video out now, so check that out.
Yeah, he seems like an intriguing artist. I know that you like him a lot. So an artist I like a lot, I'm sure you probably didn't listen to this, Bleachers released their second single off their upcoming album, which is out June 2nd. So he's actually performing at Governor's Ball the day that it drops. So
that's interesting.
First time playing new stuff.
I'm sure most of the crowd won't have heard it then.
Probably not. I mean, unless they listen to it literally on the way to the festival. It's actually really a disappointing new song. It's called "Hate That You Know Me," and his first he had another single he dropped. I forget the name poor research on my part. But that was actually pretty catchy. This one, it was Take the Money. That's what it's called. And
nice.
This one, not so good. So we'll see. His first album, Strange Desires, had like half the songs I thought were really, really good, and half the songs I thought were mediocre at best. So he's kind of a hit and miss artist for me, but so far he's had one hit and one miss. So probably going to continue that.
Nice.
So I want to talk about these two last because I feel like these are like the most interesting two.
Sure.
Frank Ocean and Paramore. So why don't we start with Frank, because we're huge Paramore fans on this podcast.
Yeah, we've had many Paramore pods. Check those out. Soundcloud.com/Nowstalgia
Frank Ocean dropped his second single this year? Third.
Chanel, Biking with Jay-Z and Tyler Creator, and now Lenses, which he released. Lenses and then a remix with Travis Scott.
Right.
And Chanel also got a remix with Rocky.
Interesting.
So
okay.
I think the better takeaway from this is that this is from Blonded Radio, which is Frank Ocean's Beats One show. Obviously, the most popular Beats One show is OVO Sound Radio from Drake.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
He premiered More Life on that. Actually, I think Beats One is actually a really interesting thing because it's probably the best aspect of Apple Music because it kind of like makes things event listens, and like hear like someone like Zane Lowe, who is on Beats One, like talk about like how like it motivates people to tune in the age where like there's less gatekeepers than ever. Still engaging with the audience this way, I think is really cool, especially when it's coming right from the creators like a Frank or a Drake.
Right.
So what do you think?
I think that's a really interesting idea, actually. Just before we move on to the song, create like. Obviously, Drake has been thinking about this, like how do you make albums more relevant? And obviously, he made a playlist, quote unquote. But the idea still stands that if like what makes like cable television still relevant? Live events, like that's why
sports and awards.
Yeah, exactly. So the only way you can really make albums really, really relevant again and like big drops is if you're like, hey, tune into my OVO show. I'll be dropping my new playlist on that. Yep. So that's a really interesting idea and actually really smart. I'll give Drake some props on that. I mean, he's having a pretty good year. More Life is still, it's still second place probably this year.
A very solid second place.
Yeah, it's still a really good album. It's just
surprisingly, I really was surprised that Damn dusted Drake by about 100,000 first week sales.
Kendrick's undeniable.
Over 600,000, biggest album release of the year, past Drake and Ed Sheeran by over 100. That's huge. He's been destroying Spotify. It's actually cool. Like, I don't know how cool it is, but you look at Spotify last week, I'm not sure if this is still true now, but the top song list, it's just all of Damn.
Really?
So
that's incredible.
And I don't know if I like that, because if you go to Spotify to find your music, it's not being curated. You just be like, there's an album that obviously is supremely popular. Yeah. It happened to More Life. It'll probably happen with Logic and any big release, Gorillaz soon. Yeah. Like it dominates that list. And it's kind of weird, like if that's how they want to represent it, just the total streams,
Yeah, it is interesting, but it also does kind of like give a good picture of what literally is the culture that day. Like,
maybe you should be listening to it if it's there.
I mean, if it's Kendrick Lamar, you definitely should listen to it.
Stay woke. But what do you think about Frank releasing a lot of music? He's clearly not a recluse anymore. He has a regular Beats One show.
Right.
And he plays the music he's feeling, and sometimes he drops his own songs on it. He's clearly changed.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's feeling himself. I don't know.
It's interesting.
I haven't tuned in. I haven't heard what he says or anything. But
without knowing what he talks about and how the show actually is, it just feels like he's the type of personality where if he wants to be recluse, he can be that, or he can be really outgoing. And I mean, you've seen people like The Weeknd who claim to also have these kind of social anxieties about being in the spotlight, then become huge stars. And even though it's not the most comfortable thing, they really push themselves to do it because they want to make more money. They want to be a bigger pop star. I think that it's interesting. I really like this song, Lens. I like Biking a lot too. Chanel, actually, I don't recall, but I'm sure it was okay. I wasn't a huge fan of Blonde. I only listened, I think, like once or twice maybe. But the further away we get, the more I'll probably not ever listen to it again. As interesting as it is. But this song I thought was really like a very nice song.
Yeah, perhaps Blonde and that 3-year recluse period was exactly that. Like it was a recluse period. Maybe he's no longer a recluse as much anymore. Like, next stage of his life. I don't know.
There's got to be some conspiracy.
Throwing darts right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's Frank Ocean. It's tough to read.
I mean, he's like what, 30s?
He's 29, I think.
29.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he's probably like been like collaborating with people on the DL the whole time, and now he's just like ready to like, all right, just gonna be a normal person out here.
So he no longer has the recluse belt. That's probably Andre 3000 now, right?
The recluse belt. That's a really interesting.
In fairness, Andre's had it longer, but
yeah, I mean he's a total
He was kind of less anticipated because you never thought you knew Frank would have music
didn't
again.
Didn't he want to become an actor? Wasn't that what Andre Benjamin wanted to do? Become an actor.
It's true. Semi-pro. Phenomenal comedy.
But also, I feel like I heard a rumor for like 5 years in a row that he was going to be Jimi Hendrix in a movie, and it never happened.
Interesting.
I feel like he'd be a good Jimi Hendrix. He looks like him.
Looks like him
For sure. I don't know. Andre 3000.
There's been a lot of not a lot, but there's been more pictures of him in the studio with people.
Yeah,
than in a while. So I think something's eventually coming sooner than it was.
He was on Pablo. He was on.
He had a few guest spots this year. He was on Frank.
He was on the Weeknd's album too, or am I misremembering that? No, I'm thinking of Frank. He was on 2 songs on Frank.
Yeah.
Okay. Andre 3000. Interesting. Well, I guess he has the recluse belt. Tune in to our upcoming podcast where we review who holds the recluse
Speaking
belt.
Of recluses, Haley Williams and Paramore.
Yeah, for real. So they haven't released a new album since what, 2012?
I think so.
And
that's the last one I knew of, unless
they kind of like were on hiatus, I guess. It wasn't like an announced hiatus though. And
back and better than ever, or not?
I don't know. I mean, the song is called
Hard Times.
Hard Times. Yeah, I can't read my own handwriting here. Hard Times. It's
Hard Times. I thought it was.
It's a nice little pop punk song.
I like it because it's poppy.
So I wanted to read this to you here. Paramore has
their last album is 2013. Yeah, self-titled.
Paramore has expressed appreciation for the following bands as influences on their music: Fall Out Boy, Hanson, Panic at the Disco, Blink 182, Death Cab for Cutie, that's alright, Jimmy Eat World, alright, Me Without You, and Sunny Day Real Estate, as well as Thrice and Newfound Glory. What the fuck are they listening to?
That's just Newfound Glory.
Haley Williams has cited her personal influences as Elvis Presley, The Angels, The Ramones, Blondie, Aaliyah, Robert Smith of The Cure, and
shout out Aaliyah.
Yeah, I know that she actually has a pretty good list, but people in her band listen to some shitty bands. Like, what the fuck, Paramore?
Hey, OG Newfound Glory is still good.
Like
just like
My Friends Over You and Catalyst.
That era.
And
they got a few albums from that.
They do. And Fall Out Boy, early Fall Out Boy is still classic, sure. But Sell Out Fall Out Boy, not classic.
Or Sell Out.
Shout out Pete Wentz.
So they have a new album actually, After Laughter.
Yeah, it's coming out
May 12th.
Yeah, May 12th. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. They're back.
What's your favorite Paramore song?
Probably Misery Business.
Wow.
It was in Guitar Hero, I think. That's why I liked it.
I think
it's from 2007. It's been a while.
I think Only Exception is probably my most played Paramore song back in the day. It just says a lot about me in high school.
Yeah, you soft fuck.
Well, I mean, you know my musical taste, so I prefer Kendrick over Drake now, so I'm probably compensating for my high school days. Why don't we move on to TV, because we have a lot of TV to get to. Let's start with Fargo.
Yes, Fargo.
Season 3. So it premiered this past Wednesday.
Yeah, what is Fargo, Pat, in case people haven't been paying attention to the best show on television?
Well, it's a show on FX. It was interesting because what was I with you? I was with Sean McKenna and
friend of the pod.
Yeah, friend of the pod, Sean McKenna, and someone was like, "Can you explain what Fargo's about to me?" And I was like, "Oh, it's actually a really good question. How would I explain this?"
Coens.
Well, yeah, I was kind of like, well, it's based off the movie, kind of, but it's like, you know, like really bad people come into like a pretty nice town and like they deal with it. And Sean was like, yeah, it's like
normal people,
big crime dealing with like a small town, like small town
Midwest,
right?
So Fargo season 1 actually is connected to the movie because like the money is found in the right. So there's a direct connection there, and season 2 is just a prequel to season 1,
right?
So it's a prequel to the sequel, if you follow. But now season 3, as far as we know right now, there's no connection. It takes place in 2010, right. So it's a few decades later. But yeah, it's like normal people with big crime in the Midwest.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right?
It's kind of like big crime moves into a small Midwest town and just goofiness.
Like normal, like American values people
being put in
meets with shady individuals.
And being put in situations they normally wouldn't be in. So yeah, this was season 3. Season 1 very well received, a lot of high profile names. Season 2, Dave has described it as a perfect season of television.
Absolutely,
it was really good. Season 3, we were pretty hyped about this. Ewan McGregor playing Emmett and Ray Stussy, brothers.
The roles.
Carrie Coon, also on The Leftovers, which we'll be talking about in a second.
She plays the Allison Tolman good cop character.
Gloria Burgle. And then we have David Thewlis, who was Lupin.
Don't see him with the moon.
Yeah, exactly. There'll be no full moons on this. And then a couple other characters that we talked about last week, like
Stolberg.
Karen Sony.
Yeah, we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I was going to say we didn't see her in this episode.
But the breakout, the wild card character, Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yo, she stole that episode.
She did. And she also doesn't fit any of the previous season archetypes.
No, she doesn't.
Because think about Ewan McGregor, shady, overweight one. He's similar to Kirsten Dunst in season 2, or Martin Freeman's Lester Nygaard season 1, like the kind of normal person who's kind of a shitty person, right? And then David Thewlis is a lot like Billy Bob Thornton in season 1, right? The nefarious someone from a illegal consortium or something, right?
Exactly.
So, but Mary Elizabeth Winstead doesn't seem to have a through line from a past season in terms of what her role is, and I think that's fascinating because she was actually really good in 10 Cloverfield Lane. So I'm really excited to see what else she does. She was in Scott Pilgrim before that.
Well, and even Ewan McGregor as Emmett is basically
the dual role thing.
Basically like Martin Sheen, right? Because like
Martin Freeman.
Martin Sheen, Jesus. Martin Freeman, because he's like the really like innocent person who just gets involved with the wrong people, like thinking it's going to be more innocent than it ended up being in a way, right?
Yeah. Well, it seems he ripped off his brother. Yeah.
Well, he seemed like he did an asshole thing, but I don't know. It seemed like a fair trade from what they were talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know. Depends on who you believe, I guess.
We'll see.
Yeah, Mary Elizabeth Winstead was awesome in this episode, and it was so funny watching her be so like cunning and like sneaky, and then seeing Ray be such an idiot. Like them playing off each other was very comical. Like when she steps out of the bathtub, she's like, "Hey, get the gun."
What do you think we're doing this for?
Yeah,
yeah, really good.
Also, I thought her with the scene, just with that whole scene where the guy is holding the gun, holding them hostage basically, and then runs out and she pushes the
that was so good.
So well done. Well, why don't we start with Ewan McGregor though? Because I think he did a lot of work in this episode, being two characters, two brothers.
Yeah.
What did you think about him as Emmett and Ray?
Well, we got to see a lot more of Ray, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool because he's got like a prosthetic like beer belly gut or whatever, and like they superimpose the shots so they actually are in the same frame.
Right.
Which is great to see. It's not like back in the day where just they would never actually be in the same shot.
Just like show them from the back or something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, we saw a lot more of Ray, and I think you really get a taste of his character already, and like just seeing how the fact that he would recklessly ask his parolee, who's clearly such an unreliable person, to do something. Yeah. Like, I was like, oh, well, this is classic Fargo here. Someone's just going to totally fuck something up and make something get way worse than it had any right to be.
And they always do those little things where, like, the guy's looking around for the address on the piece of paper that goes out of the car. And he's like, I'll remember it. And he walks to the car, and they literally, like, pan down and show that he was, like, 10 steps away from the note. And it's just like, oh, my God. Those little, like, Fargo details that just kill you.
And, of course, this is from Noah Hawley, someone we've lauded before for
Legion. Yeah, we've been talking about him all year.
And Fargo, of course, beforehand. So he actually directed and wrote this episode in regards to being also the showrunner for the whole season.
Right.
And there was some really, obviously, Fargo, being the Midwest, the snowscapes are kind of the trademark landscape of the series.
It's the only, like, running character other than that,
the setting is
Maggie was in, like, the first 2 seasons, but in different forms, like as a child and as a older adult in the first season.
Ted Danson and Patrick Wilson, right? Old and young.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's really cool shots. I thought, like, in the beginning when Ray leaves his brother's fancy party, there's a cool shot, like, of
Ray's driving the car,
the valet shot, really cool. Kind of like, almost like a Wes Anderson shot.
Yeah. Honestly, you could play Crazy on You in any scene. It makes the scene so much better.
Yeah.
But some of the criticisms of this have been that it's starting to feel a little bit familiar for people. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, so far, you can pick each character except for Winstead and be like, they're kind of like that character from the previous seasons.
Right.
They'll probably do something like they did. You know, it's just the worst thing for Fargo would be predictable.
Right.
And it's tough because it is an anthology series, right? Each season has a new cast. There are some connections, but because it's tied to a text in some regard, obviously the Fargo film from the Coens,
right?
It kind of has weird rules. It's not like American Horror Story or American Crime Story or Feud or any of these things. True Detective. They can just do whatever they want season to season and just have the brand carry them through and attract big names, right? Fargo kind of has extra rules to play by. So I don't want to, you know, I have too much faith in Noah Hawley.
Oh, yeah.
He's done too much, so much good work for us for me to just assume that, I'm going to predict where the season goes or it's going to become familiar. But at the onset, I do think that makes sense.
Do you think it makes sense to have Ewan McGregor playing both roles?
Don't think it's necessary. I think it's just something cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting little tidbit. Yeah, it's cool to see him playing off and not have it feel totally like strange.
He's clearly,
disjointed.
Each brother feels like a totally different character.
Oh,
and it's not just their appearance. Like they sound different, they act different, which is, great acting. I think he's a shoo-in for an Emmy here.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which is great.
Now, I think David Thewlis is going to be the Bokeem Woodbine of the season, though. Like, just the way he was sitting there, like, as they talked to him and just being like, "Oh, you don't know what we do. Like, you don't understand that this was an investment."
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So good.
That was a great scene.
Yeah, he was. That's the thing, is even if this does become a little familiar and, like, the seasons
I won't care at all, though.
Structure, yeah, it's just still really fun to watch.
Great writing, great actors.
Yeah, and it's, like you said, beautifully shot.
And it's only familiar to itself.
Right.
It's not like Fargo isn't a super unique show that does things way better than so many other dramas.
Right. It's not a regular cop show.
Like, yeah. Like,
it's not like Law and Order.
Fargo being derivative, it's like you're comparing LeBron to past LeBron seasons. It's all relative.
Jordan's still better, though, right?
Mm.
Well, speaking of Jordan... The Leftovers now. I can't call Leftovers Jordan, but
Please don't.
The Leftovers season 3, the final episode, final episode.
So Damon Lindelof of Lost fame.
Yeah, Lost, Prometheus.
Yeah, he did a lot of movie writing after Lost.
Star Trek. No, he didn't do Star Trek.
That's Abrams.
J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, they both have glasses, I guess.
Right, but I thought he was involved in some way. Anyways, so Leftovers came back for season 3. Right. Now I know that you're not caught up on it yet. But I know you started watching, right?
Yeah, still in the season 1, actually.
What do you think so far?
Well, that's the interesting thing about The Leftovers, and I was aware of this at the time when it was on, but I didn't. He did work on Star Trek in the Darkness. Okay. You're right. I was kind of aware of this. Season 1 and Season 2. Season 1 is polarizing season. I think it's more popular than the negative punchline it actually gets, you know? But then Season 2, like, totally sets the bar with, like, various tonal shifts and was one of the best seasons of anything in a long time. A lot of people's best show of the year that year in 2014.
It has one of the best episodes of TV I can ever remember watching. It's called International Assassin, and it's literally just, like, an experience the entire time.
And from what I know of The Leftovers, it's a character-driven show, obviously, where the plot, although interesting, and the premise in general of people just vaporizing off the earth or whatever, is intriguing, and you want to know why. It's totally beyond the point.
Right.
It's kind of like the opposite of what we talk about Westworld, right?
Yeah.
Where, like, Westworld people like it for the plot, and that's it, because there's no actually draw from the characters.
Right.
Right.
No, it's a really good show, and the first season is polarizing, but I think it makes a lot of sense because the way that they do the first season, it's kind of like this back and forth among this family and seeing, like, how these different people get pulled in different directions based on what's happened. Right. And the second season kind of broadens it a little bit to more of, like, how does this affect people, I think, a little bit more on the level of, like, a community. It still has, like, that personal aspect, and it's basically just it's a story about grief. It's a story about, like, making sense of something that makes literally no sense. Like, 2% of the world's population just disappears. And there's no explanation. Right. And you're just, like, trying to make sense. Like, was it, like some spiritual type shit? Was it just, like, some randomness?
Yeah.
Like, just even thinking about that concept is really cool.
Yeah.
And this season so far, it really started off so, like, some of the events at the end of season 2, if it had ended there, would have been really interesting just to leave it and kind of like let the viewer make sense of it. But what they're basically saying is like the character happens to doesn't want to talk about it at all, and they're like, oh well, we're gonna make everybody else want to talk about it. Like everybody else is gonna come up to this person and basically make them interact around this issue that they have no interest in talking about. It also so far has added like these little mysteries into it. Like at the end of one of the episodes, the first episode, they just show one of the characters older but in a totally different country and like just totally random.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and it's not even the person's actual name, so it's like, have they gone to hiding? Did they leave and start a new life? Like, what is this connected to at this point? So there's a lot of like different threads that are going on. Carrie Coon though, so fucking good in this. Yeah, so good. So
who's the lead right now?
Justin Theroux is technically the lead, and that's actually a really interesting thing. So if you look at like the big name actors in this, there's maybe only like one when this started. It was really Liv Tyler,
right?
And obviously she was in things like Armageddon, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
At the beginning of season 3, spoiler, they just kill her off. Like in the first 3 minutes, they just kill her off. Like their biggest star. It's just kind of like, oh
wow.
And she was like a big proponent of driving the plot in season 1 and season 2. So it's really interesting to see them just kill her off in that way and just be like, oh, we're gonna roll with these guys now. We're gonna go in a totally different direction. And
final season.
Yeah, final season.
Interesting.
It's shaping up to be really, really good. Episode 2 was a lot of fun to watch and very interesting, especially the ending. So,
do you agree that a binge of The Leftovers is a emotionally taxing venture?
So I actually binged Leftovers when I watched it, and I wish I hadn't, but I'm glad I caught up.
Right. That's what I did with Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
A binge just to catch up in time.
You know, it's emotionally taxing, the second season especially. The first season, I don't think was as emotionally gripping, so you're not gonna feel as like taxed. Second season, you really like. There were episodes where I actually had to spend a couple days before I went to the next one, just because I was like, I need to really think about this to make sense of it.
Wow.
Yeah, international.
That's what I've heard. So.
Yeah, International Assassin. I think I actually watched 2 or 3 times just because I was like, I don't think I even understood what happened. Like I kept like rewinding me, like, does this make sense? Like,
sounds like Legion.
There's a lot going on. So definitely check out The Leftovers. And
it's on HBO.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about 2 other HBO shows right now.
Yeah, the HBO hammer right now is Leftovers.
So David,
Veep and Silicon Valley.
Have you ever watched Veep?
No, I haven't actually. I'm thinking if that's
a crime, dude.
Well, what I do, I have a lot, as many shows as I can that are on currently airing. I try and watch week to week.
Yeah.
And when I have time during that, I try and catch up on things I haven't yet watched.
While
right?
also catching up on video games and music and producing a podcast and
So again,
you're pretty busy.
Like content, right? A lot of things to consume. And I think Veep is now on my backlog list right now. Because it's appealing, because it's only 30 minutes an episode, so I can try and watch a few seasons.
You can definitely binge
I probably won't catch up all at once, but I'll watch a good amount of it soon.
Yeah, you can definitely binge Veep.
I've seen a lot of
scenes,
of course.
Like, get through it. Sure.
You know.
Well, season 6 started, and it's a pretty interesting season.
What's the appeal of season 6 compared to the previous seasons?
Right, so basically, like, the plot of Veep, as the name suggests, is Selena Myers, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, is the vice president, first female vice president, and throughout the seasons, with different things happening, she moves into the presidency, has an election, loses the election.
So it's like House of Cards. Becomes the president after being vice president.
Yes, I guess that's true.
Did she commit any crimes?
I mean, I'm sure.
Does she push Zoe Barnes in front of a train?
Nothing malicious, at least.
Does she kill Corey Stoll in his bathtub? Was it?
Well, did she?
Oh no, it was his garage.
He just didn't he just drive him to suicide? Wasn't that?
No, he basically.
They made it look like a suicide.
Yeah, he got him drunk and then he closed his garage door, so he died of carbon monoxide poisoning. Man, Kevin Spacey. Early House of Cards is fucking awesome.
It's coming back too.
I know.
That's
May 30th.
That's like what in the first 14 episodes. Cause it's what season
13. Yeah. Netflix season 13.
Wow. Anyways,
so Veep.
Yeah, and the fifth season leaves off with her losing the election for re-election or for I guess election.
And you think that's a smart change?
Well, it's interesting because it wrapped up like last June, something like that.
Yep.
Like maybe like July.
Yep.
So the election at the time.
Yeah, the election. shaping up to be a little different.
Yeah, the election at the time looked like it was going to be Hillary in office, so it was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is a smart direction. Like, you don't want to put her in office and, have another president. Like, you can have her go in a different direction. They're not going to be compared. Well, it looks even smarter now because if they had her in the presidency trying to one up the current administration, they literally had to take a joke out about golden showers. Like, when that news story broke, they actually had to call like the writers and be like, take the golden showers joke out. We need to come up with something different. Like, they literally can't outrageous this administration. So now Selena is outside and like trying to figure out how she can run for re-election again. Maybe she's trying to like put feelers out there.
Huh.
But everybody in her staff is going in different directions. So like Jonah, played by Timothy Simons, is a senator whose like biggest bill is like trying to get better dessert for kids in high school for their lunches.
What's Tony Hale up to?
He's still Selena Meyer's like right hand man.
Okay.
Basically just follows her
like
around
his
everywhere.
Her aide.
Reed Scott plays like a CBS like morning anchor. Who's really funny. Him and Jonah have a really funny interaction. But by far my favorite is Kevin Dunn.
I love Kevin Dunn.
Dude, he goes
Transformers Kevin Dunn.
Oh my god, he plays like this like obviously like an older like I don't know like advisor to Selena.
Sure. And
now he's like trying to like make it like back out in like the business world, and he's like working for Uber, and he's like making all these like racist jokes, and oh my god, he's just hilarious. He always somehow seems to like have like
what
one
was
or
he
two
just
moments
in?
that laugh out loud.
He was just in something. I don't know. He's a that guy status for sure.
Yeah, he's in a lot of stuff.
I was thinking of The Night Of, but that was Bill Camp. They kind of look similar.
Yeah, he was in True Detective though.
That's what I'm thinking of.
He was definitely so this show is just always. I mean, the writing on this is phenomenal. I think we said that in past podcasts, but it's just really smart that they decided to put people going in all these different directions.
Smart humor.
Yeah, and it's like a really good like reboot for the series almost because it's giving it like a different direction, and it's gonna give it some time to breathe and like figure out, do we want to have her run for election again? Do we want to have her move in this direction? Like it's a really good reboot, and there's so many different lanes that they can go down.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like Silicon Valley in a way, which also did kind of like a reset. Like
yeah, I think both these shows are smart because they're really satires. They're not sitcoms. You know, sitcoms kind of live off of being the same thing all the time, being familiar, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, shows like The Lead kind of change it up as they age for the better, but like what's the most watched sitcom? Big Bang Theory. It kills. They all make a ton of money, and the show is exactly the same. Yeah,
that made me really sad for you to say. I was like, oh, Seinfeld. No, it's not.
But yeah, Silicon Valley with Richard leaving Pied Piper doing his own thing.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Well, I think this is actually, that was in trailers.
Probably.
So.
Yeah. I think it was. Yeah, it's interesting.
It's really smart to change it up. There's only season 4 too. They obviously could have kept running this back.
Right.
I mean, it has the best comedic cast, I'd say, pound for pound, probably just because there's so many of them.
Right. Yeah, I feel like Silicon Valley, unlike Veep, which really gives like each of its characters different times to really step up and shine, hasn't found a way to utilize all the characters as well as
they get their moments, but the plot was still really driven by Richard.
Right. And now like moving Dinesh into like a bigger role,
at least for now.
Yeah, and like just like letting him and Guilfoyle continue their like back and forth is perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I think Come On Johnny is probably the breakout star.
Oh yeah,
because TJ Miller was in some other things already. So yeah, giving us more of Dinesh is smart, I'd say.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, because Silicon Valley obviously lampoons tech culture and real Silicon Valley, like some of the outrageous shit that happens there. Similar to Veep, which is basically just going off of current events. Unfortunately, nowadays, there's always material to use and make fun of and going off like Hooli, obviously it's just Google. But by switching it up and making it feel less familiar, I think it just gives them more options because they were kind of in a formula to a certain extent, where as a startup that has a great idea but can't succeed because Silicon Valley is actually really hard on you despite what they want you to think. That was kind of all we got in terms of a plot. So I'm encouraged to see what else we see moving forward.
Yeah, I think like the interesting thing about like the direction that they're going in is like the Hooli stuff where I forgot the guy basically
Gavin Belson.
Yeah, Gavin Belson. Like his like whole character is basically driven off of like what am I gonna do to like get back at Richard or like squash him.
Yeah.
But now like his whole like the whole like C or D plot of this first episode was him just having this like dick measuring contest with the other guy who fucked Richard over before.
Yeah, the Pied Piper CEO, whatever his name was, the old guy with the bald head.
Exactly. So and like just having
from
him, like,
the horse scene.
Oh my god, the horse scene. But like even in this one, like having the guy fly back and forth like to those 3 different places, like all the way across the Atlantic, and then being like, he's costing this company millions of dollars.
Yeah,
it's so ridiculous.
Also, shout out the really like intense aide of Gavin Belson. Looks just like LeVar Ball.
Yeah, he does. Oh my god, I wish he walked like him too. You ever seen that LeVar Ball walking?
No.
Game? Oh my god, you need to look it up.
That.
It's
That
hilarious.
sounds funny.
But the other funny thing is they really pull out outrageous characters, but they make them fit in pretty well. Like, do you remember the lawyer? I think he's like he was.
Oh yeah. He was a young guy.
Yeah,
right?
he's a really young guy.
Yes, he's totally incompetent.
Yeah,
he wouldn't do anything.
Well, he was actually really smart, but he just was like super like flighty and like was just like never really helpful. Or the guy who's the investor there who. In this episode, he
with
goes
the
to
orange car with the suicide doors, or scissor doors.
He goes to pick his kid up and is at the wrong daycare.
We got kicked out of this place.
Yeah, we got kicked out of this place. Fuck.
No, his monologue to Richard where he's like, Pied Piper needs to be the guy you want to fuck.
Yeah, just totally like.
And when he goes off on all those like designations for types of gay men, and Richard's like, how do you know all this? Oh, my grandfather came out of the closet recently. Really inspiring.
Yeah, when he says like the Daffy Duck, which is a Navy man who got like honorably discharged, I was like, what? Like how do they?
I don't even know if that's real.
Yeah, how do they write this stuff? But they really do have like so much potential, and the fact that they're branching out, I think, will give people more chance to shine.
Absolutely.
You know who I feel like is like a strange character in the show is Monica. Like,
yes, she's the one they don't know what to do enough with.
Yeah,
especially since Richard is no longer. Well, none of them are with. She's not a Hooli. Where's she at now? She works for what's her name's place.
Yeah,
the other big
right,
company.
Lori.
Yeah. So I don't know. She's just kind of there as like Richard's foil, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it almost.
She's still really charismatic, but you're right. She has gotten the short end of the stick, which is kind of like Silicon Valley in general and how they treat women. So I guess it fits.
Actually, a really good point. Yeah, I feel like they need to find how her character fits in more,
right?
Because they like kind of like flirt with this idea of her being like just like a foil, like you said, but then also kind of like, is she a love interest potentially?
Yeah, they haven't.
I don't know.
I think they've smartly avoided that.
Yeah, that would not.
I'm surprised they've been able to keep Big Head so successfully in the show, because he's been on quite the roller coaster in terms of what his character's actually done and where he's worked or been in power of and stuff.
Yeah, he went from being just like a
and he's still like
employee.
And he's still really funny, like the way they write him in.
I know.
I don't have to be CEO, like, right? Eric's got this.
Yeah, or when they were like, oh,
now his dad speaks for him on his shares.
Yeah, love you, Brown Bear. Like, oh my god, so funny. Yeah, Silicon Valley, very smart idea, going a different direction, and just like Veep, I think HBO is gonna continue to dominate the that like comedy block on Sundays. I mean, there's something like viewing is just unparalleled.
Right, and they pushed Game of Thrones back into the summer, but no matter, because Leftovers is back for that slot. So the HBO trifecta remains all the same until the end of June. Got the hammer.
Man. It's a goddamn machine.
FX has got Fargo going. AMC's got Saul.
Yeah.
It's very busy.
Yeah,
the Netflix will be dropping shit all the time.
We'll hopefully be talking about Saul soon.
Yeah. We're waiting for Gustavo Fring.
Yeah.
Some shit to go down.
I was thinking, like, I wonder if, like, Gus is going to show up, like, the last episode of this season.
I don't think they would have immediately talked about it and revealed it and had him doing the junket if it was going to be that late.
I don't think they would have had, like, the Los Polos Hermanos place pop up in New York City either. But I was just, like, if they did, like a Luke and
Force Awakens.
I almost said A New Hope.
Yeah,
Force
I was just thinking that. Yeah,
like if he just shows up at the very end, like,
right.
I need some business or like something like that. Or I'll give you my business. I'd be like, fuck. Like,
Mark Hamill actually was joking about that at Celebration. He was like, yeah, when I'm going through the script, and I'm like, okay, they're in the forest. Kylo Ren's there. The lightsaber, it's floating. It goes off the ground right into the hands of Rey.
Yeah. That's hilarious. He's a great interview. He's really fun to listen to.
Yeah.
He's such a nerd.
He's such a happy, go-lucky guy, too. He's so happy with his life. He's a happily married man. He's multiple people proposed in front of him at the meetups.
Really?
Like that. Yeah, limited slots to, autograph and get a picture with cast members. There's at least one high-profile one of... They took their picture, then he got on one knee, and Mark Hamill was like,
He did an interview with the Nerdist podcast, and he told so many good stories basically about how he was this big nerd, and Harrison Ford was the most masculine
machismo,
man,
yeah.
And he would just be making fun of him all the time on set, be like, "What are you talking about?" And he does a really good Harrison Ford impression too, so it's really fun to listen to because you're almost hearing the actual story between them both. It's great.
Yeah, so. 40 years of Star Wars. Harrison, how do you feel? Old.
Yeah. He's the best, man. All right, well, we got to wrap up there for this week. We'll be talking Gorillaz next week. Maybe we'll see Lost City of Z.
Yeah, we'll see Lost City of Z.
I gotta find a night we can go.
Charlie Hunnam and Robert Pattinson on the comeback.
Robert Pattinson, man.
He's had quite the good run post Twilight.
Really?
Yeah, because he's been taking.
He was in that Elephant movie with Reese Witherspoon, right?
Yeah, he was in a lot of things.
But that wasn't very good.
He was in The Rover with Guy Pearce.
Huh.
He's been taking lots of smaller roles, not really headlines. He's just letting his acting. There's a good editorial on him. Interesting.
Well, we'll be talking about a bunch of other stuff too. Yeah. Tweet at us at NowstalgiaPod, at Martin Swagger, at Sheeny World Peace. Give the pod a follow on Twitter, please, and share us. Give us a subscription on YouTube.
Please.
You can find all this through our SoundCloud. SoundCloud.com/NowstalgiaPod.
The YouTube link's right there, as well as our Spotify playlist for the best songs of 2017.
Yeah, I forgot to update that this week.
Check all that. Yeah, I got a playlist for you to subscribe to.
I guess maybe we can add I don't know.
Well, yeah, Gorillaz soon, and
yeah.
You want to put the new Frank on there?
Maybe. I don't know.
There's a lot of good stuff on there already.
Yeah, we got about 40.
A lot of music's come out already, so you might forget what came out in January.
Basically, I put Kendrick on there, and I just was like, no one's listening to anything else right now. So Kendrick is fire, and we'll be talking about hopefully more fire next week.
Yep.
Tune in. Take care. We out.